Well, so the mic is mine right now. So thank you, Pablo, for that introduction for each one of us. It's very kind of you. I know Pablo for several years. I'm Ursula O'Kuinghttons. I've been working in this crypto ecosystem for quite a while. And actually, I did work for a short time with Pablo a little bit at RSK, which is one of the first blockchain in Argentina. And that's where I discovered all of the craziness on payments and different payment rails in Latin America and Argentina. Prior that, I was a journalist for El País newspaper, which is one of the largest newspapers in Spain, covering from politics and fintech as well. And that was my aha moment on crypto. When I discovered crypto in 2012, I was like, Latin America, it is the place to experiment. It is the place to live in crypto as well, because it's not just inflation, it's just everything. The informal economy in this continent is huge. It's one of the largest in the world. And so I'm thrilled to be here to host this panel on stablecoins. Some of us, we have seen in first person, actually here in Argentina, I will tell you a little bit of a story. I came 2 years ago, and 2 years ago, obviously for the non-Argentinians, you had to go to the cuevas and exchange your dollars or euros to local pesos. It was a whole adventure. So I saved some of my Argentinian pesos from that time because it was hard to pay in credit card. And yesterday, I took my son to the Boca. He's a big fan of Boca. And I was, I'm happy. I'm so happy because I already have my pesos. I was paying, and the lady say, oh, those pesos are out of the market. They're not even issuing anything here like this type of bills. It's old-fashioned. Everyone is paying with cards in this country. So without further ado, I just wanted to start the panel with an open question to everyone here, because in Argentina, it's a market where Argentina ranks like the number 2 globally in crypto adoption, which is a high number. And this is a crypto adoption per capita. And Argentinians, they save mentally in USD, although sometimes they don't have access to USD, but they still think on USD on their minds. So this is an important country to experiment and evolve. So I will start with just a quick question for all of you. So please chime in and let's have a lively conversation. And the question is like, if you had to explain in one short sentences why Argentina or Latin America matters right now, what would you say? I gave you a lot of tips already. So, ladies first.
Okay, well, let me start. I just want to do also a quick intro. So I go as Tony, CTO of M0 Labs. I'm not Argentinian, first time visiting, but I'm Ukrainian, so I can relate to a lot of things and a lot of pain points. That's why, like, one sentence, I think for Argentina, stablecoins is a painkiller, where for US it's a vitamin, boosted vitamin, which is nice to try out and use. But for Argentina, it's an actual replacement of money and a store of value, right? So if money is unit of account, medium of exchange, that's peso is doing, but then store of value is missing. So there is no like real value without store of value. So yeah, that's why it's painkiller and not a vitamin here.
Wow, is this working? Okay, great. No, that was very, very pithy. I'm Jen, product at Stripe. I've been here for the past 4.5 years working on our crypto and stablecoins product. And I would say the past year, we've seen the most growth we've seen compared to any other year that we've done crypto at Stripe and stablecoins. And I think that's actually a huge attribute to like Argentina and Latin America in general, in which I think when we look at the stats, even like the early stats of some of the products that we built even in 2025, so less than a year old, maybe volumes or like payments volume or transaction volume, maybe that number is coming from like US and Europe, but the growth number in terms of users and actually interesting use cases are definitely coming from regions like Argentina and Latin America, Southeast Asia as well. And I think that's what's really compelling, because essentially you're able to have this like new way of moving money around the world that is actually being adopted and experimented on, and we see significantly more creative use cases coming from this region. So I think that's why we're really excited about it.
Yeah, hi. Oh, hello. Hi, everyone. I'm Declan. I work at Consensys, where I lead the Linea team. I would say, when you look at the last sort of like just 30 days, right, in terms of crypto, what actually has product market fit, what is earning fees and revenue, there's really only about 2 main use cases and about 20 protocols which earn the overwhelming majority of those fees, right? So where is the product market fit? And it's payments and it's DeFi today. And I think that is a big sign of like why Latin America and Argentina in particular have like played such a big part in that role, is because these payments, these stablecoins, are able to help upgrade the dollar for people here in Argentina. And that's just a much significantly better experience than what they have previously. So when you really think about what we're trying to do with the technology and the products, we're about trying to provide better experiences. And it's quite clear when you look at crypto where the product market fit is today. This is one of the biggest product market fits. And so at Linea, we're really just trying to help kind of speed up that revolution, basically, provide the rails and the plumbing to get people on chain whilst making sure that infrastructure is basically invisible as a sort of settlement layer for Ethereum.
Good morning to everyone. Thanks for having me here. I'm Daniel. I am the VP of Strategy and Policy at Circle for Latin America. It's a beautiful place. I've never been here before. And, I'm very happy to be amongst you guys. So let me try and give. It's good and bad to speak after everyone because you stole my thunder. But I'm going to try to give a different perspective from a standpoint of a Latin American as well. I think that when we think of why Argentina or why Latin America, to me is a case of a region that is rooted on macroeconomic instability and more recently digital sophistication, right? I think that digital assets more recently has been a tool for people, and again, it's curious, right? Because digital assets have been equated to volatility, and that's the reason why stablecoins came in, and that's exactly this unstable asset that has been managing to protect or to provide people with a hedge from macroeconomic instability, right? So again, the case of people protecting themselves against inflation, currency devaluation, I think that's the fundamental philosophical case for why Latin America and why Argentina now. But I think, coupled with that, the sophistication on our technological front, I think that countries from Argentina, Brazil, Colombia, Mexico, slightly, they all nurtured on digital capacity. So instant payments is part of people's daily lives. I said at the beginning, I come from Brazil, and Pix is ubiquitous. Everyone uses it. So I think that to me, those two angles right now, coupled with the fact that finally regulators are catching up and understanding digital assets and this industry as something legit that actually impacts people's lives and instead of being expelled should be embraced, I think that really makes a strong case for how the use is so strong right now.
That is great. So one thing that I was thinking last night when I was coming here is like it would be great to have like just a wallet as a tourist instead of exchanging from euros, my case, to local peso, just to have a wallet and pay with that, with those stables, right? That would be a dream, especially in Latin America, because when you travel here, you have to exchange to Chile, Brazil, Argentina. I forgot about that, being a European. In Europe, it's like, oh my God, this is like the real, a real use case. Anyway, but this region, obviously, that doesn't happen yet. And to your point, Antonina, what you were saying, it was very important because what this region lose if we don't have interoperability among stable coins here. And I think the product that you're building on Mo, I'm sorry, I still thinking of Mo from Aptos, former Aptos Mo. And your product, it would be like crucial to create some specific use cases with interoperability, because I don't want to get trapped in just one stable or just one product.
Feel free to with USDC, no worries.
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I would like to spend 1 minute showing what is M0. M0, like the name comes from money supply, right? M0, there is M1 and other. and other derivatives. So we are a platform for stablecoin builders, and we issue white labeled stablecoins right now. For example, recently we issued MetaMask USD. MetaMask USD is built on us, on Linea. Also, we have other big stablecoins like USDAI. We're reaching 500 million of total supply. Noble, we're working with Playtron, and have many costs, also one of our partners, and I know that they're growing in this region, which very exciting for me to see, like Joe coming here. And all of these stable coins are issued on our platform, and one big goal for us is to make them interoperable. Why? Because obviously we have big incumbents like USDC and USDT, which all of you guys are using, and we're working on different stables, which hopefully can give you as a users benefits, which are different from USDC and USDT. But big challenge is liquidity. Why would you use a stable if you don't have reliable source of off-chain and on-chain liquidity? Now, like if we issue a lot of stable coins, which give you another additional perks, any one of them can become a liquidity source. So if you can exchange between all of those, then USDC and USDT doesn't become the source of liquidity, because you don't need any more to create, let's say if you set up the pools, usually what happens, every new stable coin needs to create on-chain liquidity. And I set up the pool with second pair is USDC. And if and now, like if all of a sudden all of the stablecoins are interoperable, this is not the case. So on-chain liquidity becomes much simpler for stablecoin builders who wants to experiment with new models. And obviously Argentina is definitely the ground for that. And yeah, I'm very excited to see more and more builders to issue on M0.
Well, historically, here in Latin America, not just in Argentina, a lot of people, they've been thinking and saving in USD. And right now, obviously, we have stables that can help that as well. But for Declan, what would be the added value bringing Linea and L2 beyond just it's cheaper, it's faster? What would it be for people like real users from street in order to use this product?
Yeah, I think people already want to preserve their value in stablecoins, right? So people are already thinking and saving in stablecoins. What Linea can bring is actually helping them earn, right? So this is where it comes down to the composability of the blockchain itself, right? We're not really talking about why blockchains, we're talking about why better dollars, right? And the key sort of user need or benefit we're able to offer is just extra yield on your savings, right? And that's going to be the key thing that brings more people into dollars on chain, because remittances and payroll will come once people can see they can get their dollars but earn 5-6% yield on that as well. That's the real big sort of pitch to what's actually going to bring people on chain. And the reason that Linea can help with that is because, again, through the composability of the stack, we can bring stablecoin wallets, tokenization, all these different pieces, DeFi Legos together to actually provide these offerings that traditional finance just can't compete with. So that's really what's going to be the case. You're going to have an option of, do I want to try and get access to dollars in the sort of traditional banking world, or am I going to go on chain? And Linea is obviously one place you can go and just earn more income on those savings. So that's kind of like the key thing. I think for builders, obviously when you're thinking about, okay, where do I issue my assets or build these applications, at least what we're sort of positioning with Linea is like it's really just a incredibly neutral extension of Ethereum, right? So obviously you want to care about longevity, credible neutrality, security, all these kind of things. Ethereum offers that, but as we all know, Ethereum cannot offer you, gasless payments when you actually then want to do remittances cross-border, or you want to get payroll into your employees. So I think Linea basically just takes that kind of same ethos, but applies it to a much more scalable solution, because as we all know here, today crypto, it's very small. Like the entire market cap of crypto is something like $4 trillion, right? Well, it's not small, but comparatively where we're going, it's very small. So we have to remember and build for that 10x bigger world that we're working towards. And I think without platforms like Linea, we're not going to be able to really achieve that. So Yeah, I think it's all about composability, providing a better offering to users without all the jargon and the technical, sort of plumbing, but also making sure that we build a platform that can meet these sort of, large-scale consumer applications.
This all sounds great, but obviously we can't move forward without regulation. And here in this panel, what I've seen right now, we're very diverse. 3 ladies, one from Latin America, so one from the UK, you're from Southeast Asia, but living in the US, and you from Ukraine. So, but regulation, without regulation, we wouldn't be able to move forward. And Daniel, you are the one who is based in Brazil, who's leading Circle, and you have seen how complicated or not is the Latin American market, because each country is different, and Brazil itself is a whole continent inside of this is a subcontinent inside of this continent. What is the biggest myth that you have seen dealing with different countries and regulations, and what would it be, what we will need to change in order to move forward?
That's a very good question. So allow me to say, I was dying to comment on that. Allow me to say first and foremost that I love the fact that regulations make things complex, because that way I have a job, right? Otherwise, if it was simple, then again, companies would have no use for a person like me. But I do think that when it comes to myths, right? So to me, myths, they are contingent, or they are a consequence of lack of understanding or lack of education. But education put in a good way, right? Lack of understanding of what you want to, to organize, because basically regulations is organizations by law, right? Is endorsement by governments. And I think that it's important for us to take a step back and try to understand the role those guys play, right? Because normally we say, hey, there's this new thing going on. It's called stablecoins, and millions of people are using in your country. You need to organize that in some way, shape, or form. But those guys, they have 50 other subjects. They are urgent, and they take as priority, and we're giving another one. And we urge them, and we force them to organize that, because we need legitimacy, and we need to grow, and we need to actually do things. And sometimes we forget that it's also our role to play, to extend our hand and offer help, right? And that's kind of the work that Circle has been doing in Latin America over this past 2 years, almost 2 years where I've been with the company. So we're trying to actually, fill in the void and the gap of lack of education, understanding of the industry. But, going to the myth more objectively, when asked the question, I normally have one ready-made answer, but prior to joining the panel, I was having a conversation outside, which was interesting. I want to share with you guys. So let me share 2 myths that, in my opinion, they are interesting. The first one has to do with this conundrum between stablecoins or private issued stablecoins and CBDCs, right? And normally when we speak with regulators, or when we interact with the regulatory landscape across Latin America, that's the first thing that comes to mind with regulators. Say, look, if we're going to do this stablecoin thing, I need to lead it, right? So, in order to provide legitimacy, to ensure guaranteeing customers' rights, this needs to be done by the central bank. But, it's the distinctions, they are remarkable, because when you do something that is permissioned, that is controlled, you lose the main upsides of this industry that we're actually pushing forward. We normally say at Circle that the analogy is the same thing of trying to actually make the most out of the internet with an intranet, right? So allowing private stablecoins to, to follow its course and to interact to some extent with potential CBDCs projects is perhaps the best way forward, as opposed to thinking of if we are to regulate, the first step towards allowing for these digital assets to exist is for me, central bank, to issue them. So that's normally the thing that I say, and I think that it's something that is common to every single market or all across the board, especially in Latin America. But the other thing I wanted to mention is that it was this very interesting thing that we were talking about, which is stable coins, they tend to erode national monetary sovereignty, meaning that, take a country like Brazil that issues Brazilian reais, right? If you allow, via regulations, USD-nominated stable coins, then you're going to erode the capacity of the Brazilian real to run the country or organize the monetary landscape. I think that's the biggest myth of all, because all we know, then again, for us Latin Americans, our economy is already rooted in the dollar, right? So you take, economies that are based on the primary or tertiary sector, they're bound by exports. So you take a country like Brazil again, 85 to 90% of our exports are already denominated in US dollar. So what we are doing with actually endorsing and internalizing in the legal framework the existence of privately issued stablecoins is to allow for governments to increase the level of traceability, control, understanding, right? I think that then again, some of those words might scare us. We've been, some of you guys way more than us, but way more than me at least, but we've been into this crypto universe for a while. Control is a word that generates some degree of fear and concern, but there's no way that we're going to reach penetration that is going to get to affect an overarching amount of people's daily lives if we don't have legitimacy via regulation. And I think this is something for us to understand and for us to think about. And I do think that when it comes to monetary sovereignty, is exactly the contrary. It's allowing the government to actually understand a bit more something that already exists and already affects people's lives.
I also actually think that, what's really interesting to your point, especially in this region, what I found is that there's also stronger local on and off ramps, like local exchanges, which is actually not true in like a lot of other parts in the world, where like once you actually, let's say like a creator or freelancer is earning stable coins and they're able to like receive that into a wallet, while we're still in this like fiat and crypto world, I think that what's really cool is that you can kind of see the adoption change based on like how strong the local on and off ramps are. Where I feel like in Latin America, there's actually a lot of options for people where that's not true in other places. And I think that helps with like this middle ground, like hybrid adoption period where people feel like they can find things that are useful, but can always get back into like the real or whatever local currency they want. So
can we make this a dialogue? Can I just comment quickly on this?
Absolutely.
Because I love
yes, let's have a lively conversation.
No, honestly, I love the provocation because that's really illustrative of how dynamic this landscape in Latin America is. Because if we were having this conversation, I don't know, 3 years ago, that would definitely not be true. So I think 3 years ago we would have on and off ramp providers or banks or fintechs or neobanks across the region blocking users' accounts when they were dealing with crypto. Mm-hmm. I think now the amount of legitimacy has changed so much, and you see that with Brazil, central bank has issued regulations just last week, right? In Argentina, you have CNV regulating VASPs here. You have advancements in Colombia, in Mexico. This is changing very quickly, and I think that the impacts that we feel on our daily activities is instantaneous, I guess, and that illustrates your point exactly.
Yeah, I'm quite privileged to be able to see, working at Consensys on the MetaMask team as well, like how they can see like adoption for, real users like coming on chain. And I think regulation is important because it makes the on-ramps much simpler, right? Actually going through that process of on-ramping today is like horrible. Like it's always the area where things drop down. And I think regulation in particular is like one of the key unblockers there. I'm based in the UK, and like we have loads of problems right now with the government in terms of like, how simple it is just to get, money from your actual current bank account on chain, right? There's lots of blockers there. And so I think, that's obviously a slightly different situation than Latin America, but I think for Latin America to then drive that change, and then for technology companies like ourselves to kind of work to help to enable that, and then we can take that hopefully with existing policy and then take it to other countries and areas as well.
And Jennifer, you just mentioned it. This open up this controversy, which is great. Please chime in. But Stripe, it's been in the market for 10 years or more, 15 years-ish.
John wrote the first initial lines of code in Buenos Aires back in the
Are
day.
you wow, yes.
2013, I think I would want to say.
Oh my God, very early on. But right now, just recently, you guys been recently, like 5-6 years ago, you just started to play with crypto. And now I know that you guys are having a global expansion in crypto. And one of the assets that I will say that you guys have is a really nice app. And this is something that in the crypto space, we will be always criticizing different products because it's really hard to play with crypto at the very beginning. So what would be your successful strategy coming to Argentina and Latin America? Because I know that that's the plan. That's what I heard.
Yeah, I think that, I think what's interesting is that Patrick and John, I think, had already always thought about how to be able to move money around the world the most efficiently, the most quickly. That's kind of what Stripe started doing. So basically, when they were, I guess, in Buenos Aires in some internet cafe, they were basically trying to solve the hardest money movement problems for developers at the time. And at the time, they found that that was just basically trying to help developers accept card payments. Now, like 15 plus years later, whatever, it's significantly changed. And I think something that has historically, I would say, been a problem for Stripe is how we actually are able to expand globally. And this is where it's really exciting for us to adopt a lot of the different, basically, stablecoin strategies in order to do so. So I'll give you an example in which in May of this year, we launched this product called Stablecoin Financial Accounts. It allows businesses in 101 net new countries to Stripe. So countries where Stripe has never been able to support any product, like payment, like any product at all whatsoever. We were able to launch a product in those 101 countries, and that product was a crypto product. It essentially allows businesses to hold a stablecoin balance in like a US dollar denominated stablecoin and have access to the USD rails, but also, you know, Euro rails over SEPA, so on and so forth, and like more to come. And I think that's just an example of the fact that we were able to go from like supporting products in 50-ish countries to, I guess that would be 151 countries over the span of 6 months. Like that product took around 6 months to build, and that is significantly faster than us being able to onboard any particular country all at once. And I think that a part of it is when you think about payments and you think about how payments has evolved, it really, I think when people think about payments, it's like cards. And cards, I would actually say, is a great example of a global payment method. And then all the innovation since then has been in local payment methods, like Ideal and Ideal, Alipay, Grab, like all these like specific, very localized regions where when you travel there, you like go download a new app and then you go use that payment method. I think stablecoins has been the first, like if you will, payment method since cards that are truly like a global payment method. And I think that is also what makes the investment worth it for a company like, for fintech companies like Stripe. And now you probably have seen the news, just like so many folks getting into this space, because if you're able to use a technology to go global instead of go a piecemeal one by one, that's like significantly more powerful. And at the end of the day, it's still, it's a company. So you look at ROI, you look at the metrics going up, and you say like whether or not this investment is worth it. And I think the answer for us is yes, and that's kind of how we were able to basically have started the crypto team end of 2021, and now like stronger than ever in 2025. Actually, it's changed a lot, where up until this year, the crypto team operated like a pod structure. So we were stuck building these products end to end by ourselves, which is like a lot, and honestly, a little bit slower than I would like. But now I think what Stripe is trying to do and what we're trying to do is basically piecemeal, like enable all the Stripe products to have like a crypto and stablecoin angle if it solves a real problem for that product. So another example of that is like issuing, card issuing. Like that's always been a product that Stripe has, but now we're able to take that product more global because you can issue a stablecoin backed card in more geos than us having to set up like a fiat version in every single country.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, we can be talking about per hours and hours and hours. I know that Daniel is in a rush as well. But if we want to think about one big product that where stables will create an impact, not just in the region, in the world, what would it be? Remittances, e-commerce, or something else that we don't even know yet? Because everything is evolving so rapidly. This is a question for all of you here, because we have a very diverse group of people, from regulation to a CTO, which is a lady, which is fantastic to have a CTO, which is a lady. So, Antonina, let's start with you.
I wanted to pass to Daniel, but okay. So what it means for me? I think stablecoin is also very, very exciting because it's unlocking DeFi capabilities. As long as supply of stablecoins is growing, and I think it will grow, because I did some numbers. Apparently, Argentinians are holding more cash than total market of stablecoins right now. So even if just Argentinians move their cash out of storage and put them on chain and in DeFi, then it's already double the supply of stables. So for me, what is exciting is all the use cases which were discussed by speakers, like tokenizing. First of all, starting from DeFi, we heard from our money market, right? So it's like, what will happen on money market? That's where stablecoins will go, and where people will be able to buy crypto, supply it to Aave and borrow stables. So money markets are very important, and them being done on DeFi is crucial. Then tokenized stocks, super exciting. Also, like done it in on-chain transparent manner is, in my opinion, much better than the current setup. So stablecoins is obviously big unlocking piece for moving, I would say, TradFi becoming DeFi, or DeFi going away in a way that all finance becoming on-chain and built on new crypto rails. So for me, it's very exciting, and stablecoin going up to 1 trillion, I think will unlock that, and we'll see more and more use cases.
That's awesome. That's a great answer. I think for me, related to what you're talking about, I think the way I think about it is that crypto has a really unique way of taking an asset that already has product market fit for one geography or one demographic or one set of customers, and basically making that asset truly accessible by anyone. So I think I would agree with you. I think credit is an example of that I think would be really interesting, which is like credit is definitely very popular in the US, but I think it would be interesting to see how that would be applied across like other geos and other demographics. And then the second one, I would say it's still very early is my caveat, but the way that I think about like stablecoin money movement, especially between peer-to-peer, which I would argue like remittances are and other peer-to-peer transactions, I would argue even business to business, like B2B transactions feel very peer-to-peer. Like you would kind of think about how you would use a different rail to do that type of transaction. And I think another type of transaction that's very similar to peer-to-peer is agent-to-agent transactions. So we are, I think, like early explorations into like agentic payments, like what happens in a world where you have like thousands of agents kind of doing tasks on the behalf of their human that like basically is sending them off to do these different things. When agents pay each other, that seems like a really great use case for anything peer-to-peer related. And I would argue that stablecoins and using stablecoins to move money between peers is like one of the most efficient ways to do so. So I think that I'm excited to explore that a lot.
Yeah, I fully agree with all of that. I think there's lots of exciting like new areas of technology that are going to make stablecoins even more powerful. I think probably the one thing I would add is around the user experience, like making the use of stablecoins as easy as opening up like a messaging app like WhatsApp, or for example Telegram. You just go in and you're able to sort of onboard and access and then use those stablecoins in that app to like do payments and remittances. So I think the other area for stablecoins to get better is actually that like user experience of like reducing the friction to access and use them across the applications that everyone already has downloaded on their phone today and our global applications for many people.
I concur. I think UX has a lot of room for improvement, and I would love to expand a bit on the point that you guys raised on credit, but let me, instead of shedding light on what could be better in terms of stablecoin, I would love to talk more objective about your question in terms of looking forward. How can we actually use those tools to impact our lives, our regions, our countries? And I think that then again we could talk about both the individual level, and I think the best use case is definitely remittance, right? Because it solves a very obvious problem, right? It fixes a great pain, and I think that the best solutions they lie where the greatest pains live, right? And remittance is one of them. I mean, right now for people to send money from a country to the other, the Latin America experience, dude, is so painful. It could take a week, right? And you pay an awful load of taxes and fees. And with stablecoin, with crypto, that experience is so more seamless. And then it's a tangible fact, right? But then again, we can talk about the individual. We could talk about governments, right? I mean, we have in Latin America, in Argentina, right? So there is talks about, trying to onshore, offshore money, and how can you move global treasuries, right? You do that with legacy finance, has a lot of hurdles to overcome. You do that with stablecoins, it's way easier, right? But to me, there is, one specific conceptual use case, which is, let's not talk about the specific use case, but let's try to, again, remind ourselves of what this whole idea of stablecoin is, right? So, yes, it's a means of payment, but it's also infrastructure. When you think of stablecoins or this technology as a very powerful settlement layer, you could apply that to virtually anything in our region. And you could solve and fix many, many problems. If you think carefully, when you think about the international or the financial service sector, almost all the hurdles that we face or the taxes that we pay, they relate in some way, shape, or form with the settlement aspects. And this new infrastructure, based and rooted on stablecoin, on digital assets, is so powerful to solve those problems that then again, we could be talking about international trade, we could be talking about banking liquidation, we could be talking about many things. But to me, it's like thinking about stablecoins as mainly and primarily as infrastructure, that it's powerful enough to reinvent how we settle our trade and our monetary movement these days. Is, to me, is the main thing and the main message that I would like to leave us all with.
Well, remittances is not just, we think about remittances from south to north, but here in Latin America, it's south to south. It's even bigger than south to north. So that is a big, big, big use case. Because I used to be a journalist, and in my days as a journalist, I used to travel around Latin America discovering how people were using different payment rails, which was hard. So as a former journalist, I just wanted to close this panel asking just one question, and hopefully that would be a title. What would it be that I asked you already. I want headlines. What would be the headlines coming out of Circle? What would be the headlines coming out of Linea? Linea already had a big announcement like a couple weeks ago, a big partnership with Swift, which is a big thing because Linea is working on that. And what would be the headline on Stripe and more as well? Just be creative.
Start. Yeah, I think you already kind of hit the point. Like for us, it's about providing the infrastructure. Like Linea at its core is a technology platform, and it's all about combining these new use cases whilst also making sure that existing incumbents and providers who know all the intricacies of the financial plumbing can actually make their way on chain. And obviously, when that comes down to like payments, not just, you said it very nicely about B2B payments, right? Like banking payments is a huge use case, and we're working very hard to kind of help make that happen and do all the technology innovation that's gonna like bring these other people on chain. Yeah.
I think for me, the headlines that I think would be very compelling is actually the types of merchants that are interested in stablecoins. I think for us, maybe the past like 2 years, it would be folks that maybe you all in this room know because you're all very into like the crypto, you're all in the crypto space. But I think seeing the like mainstream names that someone who doesn't know anything about crypto actually leverage stablecoins to solve a problem for themselves, I think that's really compelling. So for example, stablecoin payments, which is one of the main focus areas that I'm working on right now, which allows merchants to accept stablecoins as a payment method, where we saw so much organic adoption from AI companies. And at first it was like, the small like Y Combinator startups that were adopting it and kind of seeing volume go through. Now it's like Vercel will like tweet about how they're accepting stablecoin payments, and 11 Labs, which is like definitely much more on the spectrum of something that they're building a great product, and this is a way for them to be able to sell their digital good like borderlessly in all the countries that basically can access stablecoins. So I would just love to put out like week after week, let's get a new user out there and talking about how they're actually using stablecoins to solve a problem, and users that are like net new to the space.
Okay, so my headline will be M0 stablecoin platform reached 100 billion TVL, issuing interoperable stables with significant source of on-chain liquidity. But I need to run it also by our head of marketing and chief of strategy for numbers. But yeah, for me, obviously, like the growth will be to see growing for our partner stables and reaching higher and higher TVL, and also keeping that interoperability component so they can exchange between each other.
I'm not sure I'm as creative to give you a headline. I do policy. I work with regulations. It's very, very boring stuff. But I want to share my vision, perhaps a soundbite, right? I think that looking ahead to the future, I think that our goal and our desire and all our work is focused on really making stablecoin the money that moves at the speed of internet. And I do think there is this disconnection in terms of the world that we live today and the means that we have available to transfer value from hand to hand. I think that we live in a world where information, travels around the world at the tap of a button, right? And internally, we use the analogy that you never say that you're going to send a cross-border email. Why you should think about having cross-border money transfer, right? So I guess the structure, the protocols, the tools, the technology is already there, is available, right? So some of the obstacles, they are of a regulatory nature, they are of an educational nature, they are of a philosophical nature, but all of those, they could be overcome. So I think that in terms of a soundbite / vision / headline, to me, it's along those lines. It's like, we have everything that we need, to allow money to move at the speed of internet, and we need to work towards that.
Well, thank you very much. For me, I think that the headlines would be like, we will send stables on WhatsApp, e-message or Telegram or any type of form and shape of new communications that we will see in the future. And another thing that Jennifer has said, that it was an open mind, maybe next couple years, we won't even be here. We will be replaced by robots doing agent payments. That could be some part of this crazy scenario in the near future. Who knows? But I know that you guys are shaping the current future. So thank you very much for being here.
You.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so
you.
much.
Thank you.